Ag Bioscience, the #1 ag tech podcast globally, is now available on video. Hear from leaders and innovators across food, animal health, plant science, ag tech, and agriculture. Mondays at 6 a.m. on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, subscribe and leave us a review. It's the Ag Bioscience Podcast with Agronovis Indiana. Get more information at agronovisindiana.com.
Whether your ROI is dollar signs or hot meals across the globe, JDA is your full-service marketing partner to help you achieve your long-term goals. Learn more at jdaworldwide.com. Empowering the extraordinary.
I don't think success is stagnant. I don't think it's finite. I think success to me has meant different things at different points in my life. And I think success is, for me, when I feel good about what I'm doing.
Hi, I'm Dave Neff, host of Talent Scout. On this show, we shine a light on Indiana's next generation of leaders who are making a difference in business, community, and civic life. These are real conversations about purpose, mentorship, and building a future that matters. Join me as we invest in leadership that lasts. Welcome back to another episode of Talent Scout. My name is Dave Neff, and I am thrilled today to have Erika Sylvester on the show. Erika is the general counsel and head of compliance for Authenticx. Erika, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. I'm excited to be here. Glad
I know
to
it's
talk.
been a little bit. I actually got to know Erika. She coached my son's basketball team about a year ago. And so you never know how your paths will cross. Youth sports, as I've experienced, I'm sure with you, your network just continues to enlarge through youth sports. So it's been fun getting to know you and your family and your two boys a little bit through that. But today is about you. And so would love to have you share with our listeners just about your childhood. I know you're not from Indiana, so where did you grow up? What was that like? Family, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, I am from the suburbs of Chicago. So, I won't say Chicago. I'll say the suburbs. We're about 45 minutes outside, southwest side. So I went to Carl Sandburg High School. It's a public high school there. My family is from there. Much of my family remains there. But I really had a great supportive upbringing. I have one brother who's about 6 years younger than I am. So we're close. However, we were always going through different things at the same time. I should say, things at different times during the course of our lives. So in some capacities, we were each kind of an only child.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of an interesting experience just in terms of my parents having to parent both of us at two very significant stages. But my parents were very involved in my life, very supportive, I think instilled a significant amount of work ethic in me. A big policy in our house was honesty is our policy. And I think that's really stuck with me throughout my life. So grew up there, played all of the sports when I was young, ended up having an affinity for basketball, continued playing basketball throughout, grade school, high school, and all of the different traveling teams, and then went on to college.
Yeah, that's great. So I do know that basketball obviously was a big part of your upbringing. You ended up going to play Division I basketball, right? All 4 years at Bradley there in Peoria. Did either of your folks play college athletics, or were you kind of pioneering in that regard? Or
Yeah. So my dad played baseball at Illinois State, which oddly enough is the very direct rival of Bradley. It is the rivalry of I-74, the war on I-74, as they called it.
Okay.
So it's about 45 minutes apart. And yes, my dad played baseball, third baseman for ISU. And as I was looking at schools and it started to kind of narrow down and I was going on a visit to Bradley, he was like, of all of the places you would choose. But no, very, very supportive of the ultimate choice. But so yeah, I had some guidance from someone who had gone through it before. I think much like now, college athletics during his time were different than they were at my time. And my time, very different, of course, with NIL and everything else than it is now. So you have the guidance, but it's certainly a unique experience at that point.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that a little bit. So playing basketball, what sort of, like, when did the light bulb go off? Like, hey, I could maybe do this at the collegiate level, at a Division I level.
Well, I think when I started picking basketball over all of the other sports that I was playing, and started putting in the time outside of practice, we put in, the basketball hoop in the backyard. I was shooting hundreds of free throws there. I was doing the individual lessons that everybody knows about. And it just started to be like, I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I think once I wanted it, it was something I was going to work toward, until I was told that I couldn't, which was a very real possibility. But I continued to push myself a bit outside of my comfort zone. It's funny looking back now, and it sounds minimal, but there was a point during high school when I'd played with the same AAU team for 6 years. I was very close to the coach. I was very close to my teammates. We'd kind of developed over that period of time, and just absolutely instilled fundamentals of the game, what it was like to be a teammate at a higher level. But it reached a point where if I wanted to play at the next level, I was going to need to be able to have some more visibility.
Yeah.
And so I changed teams, and that was at that point in my life, like an incredibly heartbreaking, I would venture to say, decision that I had to make, because it was one I knew I needed to make for the growth that I wanted to see for my future. But it was the first time that I had to have that introspective conversation with myself as a 14-year-old, with the guidance of my parents, certainly, and having tons of conversations with them, but identifying what it was that I wanted and what I was willing to do to get there. And it wasn't that I was going to break the relationships with that team or with that coach, but instead it was going to be, I respect this team so much and everything that I've been able to gain from it and hopefully put back into it. But I'm going to make this transition at this point because I want to reach this goal. And that was it still kind of gives me the chills a little bit, and having to go through that, because it was a challenge.
Took courage,
maintain some relationships that I was able to, and lost some, frankly. But that change, I think, is really what signified, like, I want to do this, and I am going to make hard decisions in order to get to my goal, or give myself the best opportunity to reach what that goal is.
Yeah. That's a really cool story at 14, having to make sort of a tough call to leave behind friends and go to an environment that you knew would stretch you and potentially prepare you for the higher next level of basketball. How did you end up deciding? So you're from the Chicago suburbs. How did you end up deciding on Bradley? Was were you getting? My sister played college golf, so I didn't quite get all the recruiting letters, but I remember seeing, she's 4 years younger, all the letters come in. She ended up going to Michigan State. But how did you kind of decide, staying relatively close to home? Was that a goal, or just how did you land on Bradley?
Yeah, so I did want to stay close to home. That said, I would have explored options. Duke was my dream school. So, there were certainly places that I would have explored that were a little further from home, given the opportunity. But, when I started having like the significant interest, and you start doing the visits and you start having the communication with the coaches, I felt a connection to a couple. And so that's where your, on-campus interviews come in, or on-campus visits come in, and you're staying with the team, you're meeting with the coaches, you're meeting with the academic advisors, you're seeing more about the school in terms of the whole school in addition to the basketball program. And there were a couple schools that, I could have gone to at that point in time. But when I went to Bradley, I think what I felt was a true connection. It was a values match for me. I felt more than a number. I felt like I could make an impact. And it was an opportunity there that I saw myself in, and I could see myself having success, both academically and athletically, because academics were absolutely a prime motivator for me still. Even though I wanted to play basketball, I needed it to be a good school, because I knew that, Caitlin Clark wasn't around then, but I knew I wasn't going to be the next Caitlin Clark or a first former Caitlin Clark. So, that was obviously an important part of the decision making. And so because Bradley had some really great business schools, we had Caterpillar at the time, was headquartered in Peoria. So there was tons of opportunities in that capacity. So it just kind of all filled together.
What'd you end up studying?
I was business management with a legal emphasis.
Okay.
So I wanted to be general, and I wanted to learn a lot about a lot, which is kind of a theme for me, I think. Maybe a glutton for punishment in some ways in that regard, but so that's where I ended up studying.
And played all 4 years at Bradley. Okay. What position?
I was shooting guard.
Shooting guard. And you said you have a younger brother by 6 years. Can you still beat him in basketball 1-on-1?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I like to hear that. That's good. So what, before we jump off to what came after Bradley, just what was that? I mean, you didn't throw in the towel after a season or two. I don't know if, did you have any injuries or anything like that? No, stayed healthy.
I, for the most part, stayed healthy. Wear and tear is real at that point. But played all 4 years. Interestingly, now, at the time it was tough. I played a little bit my freshman year, started toward the end of the year, played my sophomore year, and my junior year was my hardest year. My junior year, Dave, I was trying so hard. Like, I felt like, you get to be an upperclassman and like, this is my time to lead this team and to help and like contribute to the success of this program. And I felt that, like, I felt that weight, and I put that weight on myself, and I faltered. I did not play well. I struggled. I stopped starting. I was like not playing as much. I was not able, my muscle memory, even in my shot, I wasn't making my shot anymore. It was a really unique time. I hadn't experienced that before. And it felt like each practice or each event that I had where I turned the ball over where I shouldn't, or, missed layups or free throws that I wouldn't miss. It was like the weight got even heavier because I was failing at what I was set to do and what I'd worked to do tirelessly, And so toward the mid to end of that season, one of my assistant coaches was like, look, come in and talk, Erika. Like, what's going on? How are you doing? I'm like, obviously not good. I'm not feeling good about much right now. And she gave me the advice. She was like, forget it all. In different words, maybe, but like, just forget it all. And like, you started playing this sport because you loved it. You're able to play this sport. We need you here. Just forget it all and like, keep playing through. And I was continuing to play through at that point, but it was compounding. And when she said that phrase to me, and frankly too at that time, I mean, transparently, it was like, they're like, we just want you to talk to somebody so you can, to someone. And so I ended up going to their sports psychologist. And that was an incredible, I'd never done that before.
That was before people were talking about mental health. It was before people were talking about it. And it was scary to me because I didn't know what to do, what it would be like, or if this was a punishment because, I'm an eldest daughter. So I'm like, I like to rule follow and I don't like when things don't go right or well when they're in my control. But it ended up being such a relief of that weight that I had felt on my shoulders. And it allowed me to say, like, I've only got 1 year of basketball left. Like, why don't I just go out there and have fun and then let the chips fall where they may? If I'm not better, well, at least I'm having fun. It's hard to have fun when you're not doing well. I'll note that. But at least I'm giving myself the shot, literally and figuratively. And so my senior year, it was my best year yet. And so that was adversity that I hadn't faced before. And it sounds minute now when you look back and you have all kinds of life experiences, but at the time it was significant. And you could have thrown in the towel, right? You probably could have quit, but to have your best year be your senior year and to go out on top, that's really neat that coach and the words that she shared and just the perseverance to kind of see through to the other side. Because we all had, I think, moments where it feels like there's just sand in the gears and like nothing's like breaking your way. Kind of wilderness seasons, but that's a really cool story. So, well, so you finish, you graduate from Bradley, you go to law school after undergrad in at Valparaiso and Northern Indiana. Was that always the plan to go to law school, or tell us about that decision?
Yeah, It was always a potential plan, I'll say. It was a goal I had. It was something I thought I wanted to do. I did not have any lawyers in my immediate family, so I didn't kind of have that, like somebody in my ear telling me that I should. I did like to argue. I did like to think deeply about things. So it felt like it added up. And I think, frankly, Dave, after playing basketball for that many years and being that intense, it was hard for me to envision going to a job after that. I almost needed, in no way, shape, or form is law school like a step down. But in terms of transitioning from being a student athlete to just a student in that capacity was actually like a stepping stone that I, in the back of my mind, felt like I wanted to have and needed to have that experience in order to get ready to then go on to the professional world in that way.
Wow. And law school probably felt like a breeze after, carrying a full class load as an undergrad plus being on, a student athlete. I mean, that builds your capacity in ways that a lot of people don't realize.
It built a capacity. It built a tolerance for pain in a lot of ways. So it was really hard. I will not say that it was easy. It was still a lot of hours. I remember looking at people, and I still have this same level of respect for people that go to law school or any kind of graduate school, and they have families. Because I remember thinking, oh my gosh, some of these people are going home to their families and they're having to make dinner, or care for their kids, or care for their parents, or do all these things. I was just caring for myself. And it felt like I didn't have time to do that, So it was a different kind of hard.
Thanks for joining us here on Talent Scout. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, so stay tuned. Whether your ROI is dollar signs or hot meals across the globe, JDA is the agency built for you. Purpose-driven brands trust JDA for branding, creative campaigns, press releases, web development, digital strategy, and paid media solutions. From fundraising initiatives to driving revenue growth, the right partner puts your organization in front of the right people at the right time. Learn more at jdaworldwide.com. Empowering the extraordinary. So you end up meeting your husband, Greg, at law school, right? After law school is when you moved to Indy and joined a law firm here with a general practice. What did that experience end up teaching you those first few years out of law school?
Sure. Yeah. So I came to Kutsenki and Wheeler in Carmel, and I joined that firm. They had, I think, 15 lawyers at the time, and I had interviewed with several of them. It had been kind of a connection. Actually, Greg's family, a friend of a friend, had introduced me, as she had actually been practicing there. And Liz Van Tassel was wonderful. She's like, Erika, you got to come in. You got to talk to these people. You're going to love them. You're going to love them. And I really had a lot of respect for Liz. And so I was like, great. Like, I'm so excited to come in. And so I came in and had a couple of discussions with them, the interview process. And we all, after I joined the firm, laughed because I think that I felt like I blacked out during the interview because I realized I wanted to work at this law firm so badly that I was just kind of on a roll, and they were laughing because of the experience. Not that it was a bad one, but they were like, it was a unique one. So anyways, it's a firm of fantastic people. I got to have various subject matter, various areas of the law I was able to work within. I had family law, I had insurance defense, I had corporate law, I dabbled in criminal law. Jim Crum was one of the managing partners at the time and brought me kind of under his wing. And so I got to go to court a lot, which in my mind was like, I need to check this box because I need to be able to do this. And I want to see what I can do in there. Because it was kind of the adrenaline rush that you get from playing sports. And at tip-off, you're like, all right, here we go. And when the judge walks in, you're standing up. And it's kind of, here we go. So it was a fantastic experience. I learned how to be a lawyer. I learned how there's not one right way to be a lawyer, that you got to be yourself if you want to be a really good lawyer, because you're not effective when you're somebody else. So, I mean, there were so many things, of course, that I learned. I was there for 7 years. And so I learned a ton from everybody there and practicing.
That's really neat. So you end up leaving the firm and join a Fortune 100 company in Cummins. How did that opportunity come about? What were your roles there? What did that sort of teach you?
Oh, yeah. That was a left turn.
Mm-hmm.
When I told, my parents,
Mm-hmm.
when I told, I was married to Greg at the time, and he kind of knew as I was going through the process, but everybody was kind of like, oh, what? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you thought about it?
Uh-huh.
Knowing that I'm an overthinker, of course. But, so, I was a partner at Kucinki and Wheeler, and I had the kind of reflective moment where I was like, is this what I'm going to do for the next 50, 40?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to I always knew I wanted to work closely with a business. So what I did as I was considering what I was going to do is I started networking and having coffee, frankly, with anybody that would have coffee with me, but tried to focus in on people that were lawyers by background and working in businesses, whether they were in-house, whether they were in a different role completely, but just understanding what their experiences were, what skill sets I needed to improve on, I needed to highlight, I needed to, try to get more experience in before making that jump. And so I talked to, one was Fernanda Beraldi, and she was at Cummins at the time and was not working in their legal function. And we just kind of clicked. And Fernanda was like, Erika, like we have so many lawyers at Cummins that aren't in the legal department. You can come over and like get your experience. And if you want to go to legal, and, she was excited about it and explained to me the jungle gym essentially that Cummins was. And like my eyes kind of lit up because as I had mentioned before, I like breadth. I like doing a lot of different things, and I don't like to be stuck in one area. I love people that are experts because I need experts in my life, my personal life, right? Your medical care, you want an expert. My outside counsel, I want somebody that knows labor law, in and out, employment law. But that's not my interest. And so getting to go to Cummins, I was in the audit function to start. I didn't have my lawyer hat on necessarily, but we were told to use our lawyer brains. And what that meant was analysis, being able to communicate to leadership what different areas or gaps we may see or different ways we could improve processes for compliance reasons. So it was an amazing experience. I got to work with auditors who had totally different backgrounds compared to me. They were CPAs, and they're, so black and white focused, which I have a huge, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that you know the answer so clearly, because I'm here arguing about the gray area and what could be and what's defensible and what's not. So it was just a really great way to get into a large company and to learn a ton about the company, work with different people. And also it gave me the time that I needed reflecting back on it to kind of take a breath from being so heads down in the practice of law for that first 7-8 years and see what all kinds of things that I could do with that background.
And you didn't have to bill your time in probably 6-minute increments, right?
I remember the first day, my boss was like, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. Let's walk to coat check. And I was like, do we have the time for that? do we need to check in or check out? Or, is this going to shorten my day or lengthen my day? That was a huge win.
Well, that's really neat. We could probably talk a lot more about the Cummins experience. But I know I want to get to current day.
Sure.
So after Cummins, you join another public company, Angi, formerly Angie's List here, right? And then through some acquisitions. So start making your way kind of towards tech. And then really just 2.5 years ago or so, joined Authenticx, which we're going to get into what Authenticx does for those that don't know. But what drew you to the startup world? Because this, you go from partner at a law firm to Fortune 100, now going into more of the startup entrepreneurial software world. I mean, you've experienced a lot already early in your career. So talk to us about that decision.
Yeah. So when I went from Cummins to Angi, I went from a team of 60 lawyers that I was a part of to a team of 5 lawyers that I was a part of at Angi. And so I was litigation, and I was over there supporting their data privacy program. And so that was kind of my first step to be like, I want some more breadth in my opportunity here. And I got to do that for a period of time. And I think that allowed me to be even hungrier to kind of go back to that broad state of being, so to speak. And so similar to when I made my first hard left turn, when I went to Cummins from the practice of law, I started talking to people, and I got a fantastic piece of advice. And it was that talk to interesting people, Erika.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if they're a lawyer, a banker, real estate, a scientist, like you name it, talk to them. Go have coffee and just see what their experiences were. Talk to them if you want about how they interact with lawyers in their day-to-day life, if they do, what they like about the different places they've been. And so I did that. I talked to and reached out to, probably uncomfortably sometimes, you know, people that are so tangential to you and you're like, hey, would you mind getting coffee? And people are so gracious when they are asked that. And so I certainly try to do the same when I'm asked. But through that, I had connected to an acquaintance of mine, Eric Prue, who was a co-founder of PackSafe, which was sold to Ironclad. And so he was in legal software, but he was chief product officer, developed their product. And so I had coffee with him, and it was his last day at Ironclad. And he said, well, I'm going to this place called Authenticx, and it seems really neat. I know we don't have a lawyer, but I haven't started yet. So let's stay connected and we'll see what happens. And so sure enough, 4 months later, we're at a Colts watch party and he's like, hey, Erika, how you doing? You know, I'm like, oh, good. He's like, so we need a lawyer. And I'm like, well, Eric, I'm a lawyer. Let's talk a little bit more. What kind of lawyer do you need? What is this business doing more fully now that you've been there? So that was frankly my connection to Authenticx and the startup world. The adrenaline, the speed in which it moves, and the excitement are things that honestly, I think once you're an adrenaline junkie, it's hard to get rid of it. And once you get a taste of that, and when you have success in that, and when you're doing it on a team and you're helping other people and you're cheering other people on and you're able to support those different aspects of growth, that to me was what the startup world It is what I have found that it is now in my experience. So that's kind of how it came about.
That's really cool. So Eric, actually, we worked together at Exact Target. It's a big, small town out there.
Sure
but
is.
I think your insight, you mentioned it a couple times, because we have a lot of 20s and 30-somethings that listen to Talent Scout, of getting out and just playing in traffic, meeting people for coffee. Good things happen, I feel like, when people talk. I think a lot of people view networking as something you do just when you want a new job or something like that, but building it into your rhythm. And there might be seasons where it's hard to meet somebody outside the four walls of your company, but getting one or two of those in a week or more sometimes, depending on the type of role you have, it just leads to all sorts of things that otherwise you wouldn't hear about, even if you read the IBJ, right? So that's really cool that by talking to all these people, and then Eric kind of reaches out about this need. So, for those that don't know, describe the role. I mean, Authenticx is, I know, been on a tear, but like any startup, you tend to hear about all the good things, and we know that it can be hard and demanding, and it's not as glamorous as it looks on the outside. But what problem is Authenticx solving, and just where is the company at today?
Yeah. So we're solving a data problem. And the data problem is we are supporting healthcare with our proprietary AI technology by providing them insights into their call center data. And so that can be a caregiver calling in and explaining that they're unable to get their medication because of insurance or what have you. And sometimes those kind of calls, if there are a number of them, there's a gap in the process. And our founder, Amy Brown, worked in healthcare before. She oversaw call center operations. And she's like, there is a mountain of data that is not being tapped. These surveys that we take after the call, first of all, most people don't take them. Second, people only will take them if they had a really great or a really poor experience. So we're missing what the gist is. And it's just being lost. So we have, over the course of, everybody says they're really an AI company now, but we've been around for 8 years now and have been utilizing AI technology since the start, in addition to human listening. So human listening was a larger component of it to start. So, I mean, Amy was listening to calls back 8 years ago and trying to identify different themes and insights for process improvement. But now we have several models that our technology product teams have put together that afford insights as well as support safety event reporting to the FDA for our different pharmaceutical company clients. So it's a problem solver from ROI. But the true mission of Authenticx is really humans helping humans, because I think anybody that has or will be, right, we'll all be in the healthcare vicinity in the future, whether it's for ourselves, our parents, our kids. We don't want it necessarily, but it's the reality. But helping everyone really be heard in their circumstances. So
that's cool. Well, I'm curious, knowing that most attorneys are trained to see what could go wrong in situations and mitigating risk. As you know, entrepreneurs are more wired to think what could go right. And now you get to throw in AI, which is rapidly evolving. It seems like day by day, week by week. Given your role as just head of compliance, general counsel for basically an AI software startup, how do you think about just guardrails for what you guys are doing every day, just given the rate of change with AI? Just curious kind of how you live in that world with your attorney hat on.
Yeah. So it was a change.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be completely honest. I think that first and foremost, it starts with some trust.
Mm-hmm.
And because I trust the people around me, that helps me do my job. I trust Amy and her vision. I trust our product teams and our engineering teams that are building the products that we utilize and deploy. But that's kind of table stakes, right? It's a good product. In this industry, there are tons of changes that are happening at all times. And I think that I was able, frankly, to gain trust amongst our team by moving quickly for our contracts and for our revenue, because we don't want to be a revenue blocker by any capacity, because that's what lawyers are always labeled. They're too slow to function, et cetera. So when I came into Authenticx, my primary objective, and this was also advice I got from someone, was go through the contracts quickly. Do not get in your head about all of the red lines. Is this really a business term that we need to fight about? Or is it something that you can live with from a risk perspective? And I had to get used to what the risk tolerance was. To your point, there's more risk at Authenticx than, at other huge companies, certainly in a contractual perspective from the risk that Authenticx is willing to take on. Now, that said, after I was able to gain the trust of some of my leadership team colleagues, because I was going to lean in and help them get done what they needed to get done, I also earned the ability to have my voice truly heard when if I see anything that to me is a risk that we all need to talk about. And it might not be something that stops the flow of business, but it's something that we need to consider. And maybe there's a different way we get to the same end zone, but can get around that risk in a more mitigated way. And so I think that approach for me trusting the team trusting me, getting some early wins so that I could have their trust and they hear my voice, that it's real, and weighted when I identify something, has been the groundwork and so foundational for me to be effective as general counsel and as just a strategic business partner for our team.
Yeah. That's great. Tell us, so where's the business today? You said founded 8 years ago. How large is the team? Just in terms of your guys' growth trajectory, maybe give us the headlines of where you're at today. Yeah.
So we have about 160 employees today. We are mostly in Indianapolis, though we have some that are nationwide remote workers. Those are some of our human listeners. We're all onshore. So that's a big thing too, with the data that we work with, which is a lot of personal health information. We have several healthcare professionals, social workers, teachers, people that are listening to these calls that are really able to contextualize them, in addition to our corporate staff and our sales team and product and engineering, which are large teams as well now. So we have been on that hockey stick, right? Like what the startups like to be on. So we are a Series B company. So more growth to come, certainly in the future. Our primary clientele at this point in time are pharmaceutical companies. So we work with most of the top 10 pharma companies. And are continuing to grow in the provider space and some med device space. So we are healthcare specific, which is something that has, you mentioned AI, and that's really something where, you hear well, why don't we just use Anthropic, or why don't we build it in-house, or why don't we do something along those lines? And our healthcare specificity has allowed us to explain how appropriate, not only appropriate, but how accurate and responsible we can be, because we work within the HIPAA constraints and we work within the FDA guidelines and have all of these things that are audit ready for them. And that's really been huge, frankly, and allowed us to grow. And I would say the last 18 months is when those considerations we've heard from either prospects or current clients that talk to us about, everybody talks about expense.
Yeah.
And so, hey, you guys are expensive. We're thinking about doing this in-house. And we're like, well, you certainly could, but we don't set it and forget it. And we have our humans that are listening. And I think tying back to our mission and really like holding strong to that, despite the AI hype cycle, going, this can get rid of all kinds of heads. You can eliminate costs from all of this. We really took a different vantage point. And I think that among several other decisions that, leadership team, and certainly Amy have allowed us to continue that growth and maintain the trust that we have in this industry of the healthcare and tech cross signal.
Well, that's great. Maybe last question on Authenticx.
Sure.
What has you excited about the future of the company?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. I mean, Dave, I'm not going to lie. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard work to be in a startup, when you're servicing fire drills and supporting employees and doing all of those things. Like, every day it's a hard day. But it is a really exciting day. And that's what I wanted by going to Startup World. So I am excited about how we continue to grow both in the pharma space and in other spaces. I, as a lawyer, love regulated spaces. So I'm really excited about it's safety events from an FDA compliance. So I'm excited it's within the pharmacovigilance team specifically for those that are in that area. But I'm really excited about the growth of that product in particular, I think, because I think that it will improve patient safety in our experiences with like whether you're the one that's taking a drug and having side effects or having difficulties with insurance. Like, I think that actually can change healthcare.
Yeah.
And so that to me is really, really exciting, and kind of just goes back to it's fun to make an impact, right? It feels good to make an impact. And so it's not just going to work every day just to sell, to close deals, to grow as a company. It's like we can actually make an improvement to a system that I think most people could agree really needs some improvement. So,
well, that's exciting. And I know you're making an impact. I think just a couple of years ago, you were recognized by IBJ as 40 under 40. And so it's been fun to guys watch your progress as a team from afar. And we need more companies like Authenticx that are, employing people and growing, given some of our city's tech history. And so congratulations on all the success so far.
Thank you.
Zooming out a bit as we work to kind of land the plane here, I'd love for you to maybe share a little bit about just your involvement in the community, outside of work. Obviously, we met through youth basketball up at First Baptist, but just what sort of lights you up? I know you've got 2 young boys, married, so that's a full plate already. But just anything you want to touch on from a community perspective.
Yeah. So I love to coach
like
that. It's so fun to me, and it's a great way to give back to community and the game, frankly, that allowed me to do a lot of things. So I think that right now is one of the areas that fills my cup.
Yeah.
After long days, after long weeks, after really hard weeks, it is tiring to go to practice, certainly. But it's so fun to see the kids get to learn what it's like to be a teammate and how to be a good loser and how to be a good winner. And those areas to me are so important because I learned so much from doing that. It's really fun to see as the kids grow up that progression over time. As well as just some of the accountability, frankly. I'm thinking about, my kids, and I'm like, well, you want to get better and you want to make that team? It seems like you need to work on it. And, it's okay if you don't, but if you want to try, let's go for it. So I would say that is probably my primary area of community involvement at this point in time. I'm on our school commission for the school that my kids go to. So that's certainly something that's also personally important and impacting for me. But just trying to give back as much as we can in those other ways. Certainly when I was younger, was able to do a bit more, or earlier in my career, a bit more. I was on the zoo board and got to do all of those fun things, which was a great way to meet other professionals and to network, and then also be a part of something that you're like, this feels good from an Indianapolis perspective. And like, we can make this something for the city to be proud of, or continue it as it was. So,
that's great. Well, what's maybe your best piece of advice, or a couple pieces of advice for someone who is out there listening that's, early in their career, 20s, early 30s, just trying to figure out kind of their path and, what lights them up in terms of those early career sort of decisions. I'd just be curious, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things, as I look back on my career so far, and frankly, a lot of life experiences so far, even that I've mentioned today, are don't be afraid to make the hard choice, and don't consider it not an opportunity because it's hard to get there. And I have found that a lot of my hardest choices, in terms of changing professions, or leaving behind colleagues that I've learned a ton from, teammates that I learned a ton from, taking a risk on your career, I don't think you can really go wrong unless you don't learn something from it. Maybe it's not where you stay forever, but I think allowing yourself the opportunity, at minimum, to think through what your life looks like if you take that different opportunity that doesn't feel like it's in your wheelhouse, or something different than what you had in mind from a career path perspective. Really consider it and see what you can take and what you can learn from that, and what you can give to it. Because I think that that would have stunted my ability to do a lot of things and achieve a lot of the goals that I wanted to achieve, when I didn't even know that turn was going to get me to my end goal. So I think one would be, don't be afraid to take that left turn. I think,
and there's a phrase for that, leadership agility, because I'm someone like you that has jumped into a few different worlds, and I think sometimes that gets it a little bit of a bad rap by maybe some older generations that hey, I worked for one company for 40-45 years, which is great in its own right, but I think I have empathy for some of the moves you've made, just because I've played in different sandboxes, and it is sort of, whether we're gluttons for punishment, but I do feel like it forces you to grow and adapt to new environments that challenge you, new products or services that you're not an expert in necessarily, and so having that sort of, again, leadership agility, I think, is a great sort of undervalued skill that a lot of people may not realize is out there. So,
I completely agree. And I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think that I gained more empathy, and I had more vulnerability, right? You always want to go somewhere in a place of strength, in terms of, you're confident in a lot of different things. But when you go into a different industry, there's a lot that you have to learn. And so you have to be vulnerable to those changes. And I think within that area, you kind of get to grow. At least that's been my experience. And then people are vulnerable right back with you, and that, like, you get to build relationships in those ways.
Well, that's great. Anything else you want to share on the advice front? I don't want to cut you off shortly. But
I think that's the biggest one. I think, like, the networking thing, right? Just in having coffee with people is something that, you hear a million times over, and it starts to get to be just white noise, I think. But my career wouldn't have been what it is without doing those things. So I do think it's incredibly important.
It's the eighth wonder of the world, right? Our
really
relationships compound, just like money and time and all those sorts of things. And so I think, I know in my life, it's led to and opened a lot of doors, not always jobs, but just opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise had I not been out there, meeting different folks for coffees and such. So, all right, last question. I ask all my guests this, try to make this the last question of every interview. But Erika, how do you define success?
It's such a hard question, so it's a really good one for you to end on. So I don't think success is stagnant. I don't think it's finite. I think success to me has meant different things at different points in my life. And I think success is, for me, when I feel good about what I'm doing. And when I feel good about what I'm doing, it's because I'm making an impact. I have positive relationships. I believe in what I'm doing. And I think that those things energize me. And so when I feel energized as opposed to depleted, which, we all feel depleted sometimes, but when I feel energized, then that to me is success.
Yeah.
And, when you have energy, you can go home and play with your kids more too, right?
That's right.
And all of the things. So I think it just kind of fills all of my cups in life when I feel energized and really good about what I'm doing at the core.
That's a great word to finish on. Well, I appreciate you carving out time. I know you've got a full plate. Love your emphasis on youth and just giving back through coaching, because you're right, it does take a village and somebody's got to teach, right, the young people of just kind of some of those lessons of life that come out via sports. So just admire you and enjoyed getting to know you through our kids. And so wish you nothing but the best. And thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Dave. Feel the same. Thanks so much.
Great.
Bye-bye.